Let's talk some options. I got Henry Schwartz here, Vice President of Derivatives Market Intelligence at SIBO, and a natural person to also be joining a conference where I feel so many of us have known each other for a long time. And we all arrived here sort of from different places, but with a lot in common as well. And folks here that have known Trade Alert, service that you provide through SIBO. What does it mean to be here? How you feeling, Henry?
Well, I mean, I was lucky enough to go to the Hood Summit last year in Miami, so this is the second round. This one's a lot bigger, a lot more going on. I mean, since then the market's up, about 20%. So, everybody's in a good mood. The retail segment is such a big piece of the option business now, right? It used to not be that way. And, the data shows, Robinhood is one of the top, okay, doing about 6 million option contracts a day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is massive. And, they turned on index option trading at just after the last Hood Summit. And now we see activity in there as well, continuing to pick up. So it's just great to talk to kind of traders of all stripes. And, I talk a lot about kind of it used to just be there's institutional and then there was a little bit of retail that probably didn't know what they were doing. Now this pro tail and sophisticated retail segment has just continued to get bigger ever since COVID. That was such a sea change for
and it
finance.
Survived.
Yeah.
That's why we have Brent on the show every morning, because he works with these pro tail people who are really plugged in, not just the first derivative, but the second, which we talked about Gamma on, but I talked with Brent about as well. What's the feedback you've gotten here from folks on primarily the products that they use from SIBO? I know a lot of people trade at the index level, but trade options on indexes in addition to the individual stocks. What have you heard? What's the feedback?
Well, I mean, so the, trading SPX and, really more than half the flow in SPX is 0DTE now. So when we talk about trading SPX, we're really talking about primarily trading 0DTE. And, the people are using these 0DTE strategies kind of as an overlay for other, single stock hits. You were talking about Oracle. I'm sure a lot of people are scalping Oracle, diving into Oracle, right? Yeah. But the trade I just outlined on the engineering the trade panel.
I saw that panel with Tony Zhang, right?
Yeah, what was simply a 0DTE condor, which really is the most prominent activity that we see on a daily basis. And so they go kind of hand in hand. You can pick your spots with the single names, and then you can also look at the market, look at the news cycle. Do we have any more numbers? Is there anything coming out at 2:00 today, New York time? And if not, then you may decide to put on a trade and basically kind of pick your levels and say, I'm good with this trade. And that's exactly what we see, in the data and also in talking to the traders here.
A stock like Oracle, when it has a move like this, because a lot of people first envisioned that these moves were going to be reserved for smaller companies. And boy, has that turned out to be false. With NVIDIA being kind of the first preeminent, obviously Tesla too.
Yeah.
Massive swings in massive companies. Do you think that after a day like today, Oracle's future as a stock is now different? When you have the ability to move like this, are you going to now be a source of options interest?
I mean, I would imagine. I didn't have a chance to look at the Oracle total volume today. I assume
10x according to Brent's analysis.
Yeah. So I assume we're going to be on pace for a record. This market, there's just so much going on, right? There's a lot of angst about kind of some of the geopolitical pressures, and yet we're up, 10, 11%. Volatility is actually realized and implied volatility is low. It's actually a very healthy market. But then you also get a lot of news about valuation concerns. So at the index level, we're kind of seeing that diversification, right? And the sector outperformance kind of cancel out, which is what the whole point of an index, right? Is you get diversification. So, I think it's going to be more of the same. I think, Oracle absolutely, will join the ranks of now these high flyers that people put in their top 5 list to keep an eye on, at least for a while. It'll be interesting to kind of see, I know there were a bunch of upgrades today, so it'll be interesting to kind of see, what things look like in a week or two.
Once you're in the zeitgeist.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
Are now. We've got a big individual, personality attached to it, Larry Ellison.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, last point is last week, again, Trade Alert got a pretty cool shout out from one of our guests, Joel Hawthorne, who's a self-made trader, and talked about how he uses products in the path of, becoming a self-sufficient trader. When you think about Trade Alert right now and the type of stuff that's sending off, what do you see? What's interesting? Is it fairly active, even though the broader market's been calm? Is there a lot of stuff popping off?
Yeah. So that's exactly it. There are times where, correlations are high and everything's just kind of moving on the macro news cycle. And there are times, and then there's other times where, you have double, or even triple digit movers in single names, and not just one or two, but, 10 or 20. And that's when option flow can really be a cue as to where people are paying attention, right? Options, they have built in leverage, right? And so, when you see something, slightly out of the money and unusually large in size and aggressive, right? And that's kind of the whole point of what we try to do in Trade Alert and the SIBO platforms is put context around the activity. So not just, 150,000 contracts have traded versus an average of 11,000, but also how many of those trade on the offer, how many trade on the bid, were they in the out of the money calls, how many were sweeping through the offer, right? That's a really aggressive trade that you don't see a lot because the liquidity is such that you don't usually need to pay through the offer. Okay. But when we do see it and it's an opening trade, people pay attention to it. And, there's a little bit of, FOMO, right?
There's a wheel in that market.
I mean,
it's like a big, a guy with big stacks sitting down the poker table, right? You're looking for
absolutely. And there's a lot of people that come in and say, well, I don't know if there's anything going on or not, but I know that other people are going to see this, very large, aggressive, speculative flow.
We're going to swim in the same.
And I'm going to get in.
Yeah, I love that. So, good stuff. Always nice to continue our conversation, which has gone on many years. Thanks very much, Henry Schwartz. Great combo, great setup.